welcome to Crochet, a Canadian crochet podcast. I am your hostess, Claudia. I herald from the base of the Rocky Mountains in southern Alberta, Canada, and I love to crochet. Thank you so much for joining me today. So, like usual, we're going to get started with our Work in Progress Wednesday, because I have something going on. This is what I am working on this week. Again, only one thing so far, but as we will see that in my upcoming projects, me working on one thing doesn't really mean anything. I have started working on a blanket slash duvet cover, which it'll be slash, I'll explain everything later. In a few minutes, that is. This is how far I've gotten. So I have been using, this is Erin, this color is called Amber, and this color is called, I think it's just called Teal. It's one of those ones that's really boring. Oh, Botany Teal, that's right. I picked this up quite a while ago. It was still, I would say, in the throes of deep winter when I got this. Actually, I could have even gotten this last year. I can't remember exactly. I talked about it. That's all I really remember. So I have this that I am using, and it is Bernat Premium. Bernini, I don't know how do you say that, but however you say that. This calls for a 5mm hook. Yes, I am not using a 5mm hook. Big surprise. And then this is the amber color here. This is also Bernat. This is wavelength. This is a little bit bigger. This is a 6. So this is what I have been using for this blanket. And then I have the good old standby. This is still Bernat Premium in the colorway Erin. That is what we're doing. I am making, yes, so as I said, I am making a blanket. I'm gonna see how much work it is first to do what I would like to do. And then if I like how it turns out, I'm gonna keep going and create just a really basic back panel for this, then sew up the edges or stitch the edges together to make a duvet cover for my bed upstairs, because I have, we have this duvet that we got from IKEA a million years ago. So what makes this duvet so special is it actually is 2 pieces. So there's a thinner piece and then a middle piece, like a whole duvet, and the duvet has snaps at either end. There's 6 of them, so there's 3 along the top, 3 along the bottom, and then you snap them together, and then it makes one really thick one. And I really, really like that because, as I have mentioned before, where I live, we have a 70 to 75 degrees Celsius spread. We can be at -35, we can be as high as +35. And when you get used to sleeping with something on for the majority of the year, it's really hard to just like sleep with no blankets. So it's nice to have that thinner duvet. You'll have to forgive the background sounds. I have dishwasher running and washing machine because this is our home and this is what it is, and the furnace is going and all of that. So I apologize for all of the noise today. Anywho, so it's just nice to have a duvet cover to keep the pieces together, because we purchased the duvet, we are pushing 20 years ago-ish. It's getting to that point. And like I said, IKEA doesn't provide that style anymore, and I don't know of anywhere else that has it. It's nothing even really fancy. It's not down filled or anything. It's just polyester fluff, but it has stayed together incredibly well, and I would like to keep it that way. And I have only got, I think I have 1 duvet cover right now, and it is made of flannel, so it is very, very hot, even just with the single like thin duvet. So I would like to have this, because with the weave of crochet and this particular stuff here, these stitches, I don't know, what would you call it? This style, it's got a bit of airflow, so when you turn and the blankets kind of fall on you, they like poof the air away. So this is now my long-term project. This could take me up to a year to finish, to be perfectly honest. And I'm sure there will be other stuff that I find all over the place to put in between when I get tired of this. So I am alternating these 3 colors, and there will be 4 sort of sections that it rotates through, so that it's not always going to look the same. Like it's not always going to have the double crochet section as this amber color, etc. So the next I have to do some counting, just a sec. I've done 2 rows and a tiny bit of this turquoise, and I'm going to be doing 4 of this, and then I'll be switching back to the white, and then I'm going to be doing this fun, it's not a bubble stitch, it's a single crochet, then in the next stitch double crochet, then single, then double, all the way along, and then you go back along the row in a single crochet, and then you go back again, but you alternate the single and double, so that where the double was, there's a single in that, and where a single was, there's a double crochet in that, and it makes this really like very cool, like textured sort of bumpy feeling for, it'll be probably about that big-ish, I think. It'll be, I don't know, we will see when it's done. That's roughly what I'm guessing is it'll be about that size. And then again, it'll rotate. So it'll be constantly like that. And at the end of all that, I get to add some fringe to these parts. So it'll be fun. I am excited to see how it looks. I just wanted some more color for our bedroom because I can't remember if I've ever taken you up there, but we have a gray bed. We have gray walls. We usually have gray sheets and gray pillowcases, and I have an extra throw blanket on my bed that is gray. So it's very gray, 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 gray. And I like that, or I did anyway, when we first moved in, but I would like to sort of transition away from the monochromatic color scheme in gray and do some other stuff. I want to keep the bed frame for sure because we got it, it's less than 2 years old, and I really like it. It's the kind that has the big, big drawers underneath. So I've actually transitioned out of my dresser and it's sitting empty, and I know I need to get rid of it, and I kind of am having a hard time with that just because I don't know what to do with it. Like, we don't need to keep it, really. It's big. It's big. It's made of solid wood. It's antique. It was made in Quebec. We got it for free off of the side of the road, but I don't need it. But again, I'm just like, I don't know. Anyway, so I transitioned out of this dresser into the underside of my bed. I have all of my clothes in one drawer, and the drawers are very generous. So I mean, like, yes, I could cotton onto the I have the one drawer wardrobe, but it's very misleading because the drawers are huge and very deep. So I have got that. And that's really all this story is leading up to. Is I would like to add some more colors, and these are the colors that I am choosing to do so with. And of course, I have made some things since last week, since we talked. I have moved away from the very, very fine yarn. So anything that is 4mm hook or less, I have put into hibernation mode for the time being. So I have dog fluff around my face here. I've put into hibernation mode, so it's just sitting in a basket waiting for another time. Some of these things I'm thinking they might not get done until like late spring, early summer type of thing. It just kind of, I guess, depends on how things are going and how outside time is going and all of that. Like, I feel like it's like turned into campfire projects now, but we will see. Doesn't matter. They're being hibernated, and I have some other stuff that I have filled my time with. And one of those, actually it's two of the same thing, but they're different, I guess. So if you follow me on Instagram, you will have seen these. If not, that's okay because I usually post stuff here first. There's not really a reason to go to Instagram to follow my stuff because I like to post the stuff here first, then I show the stuff on Instagram. So this is the place that I do like the releases and things like that, if you want to call it that. Anyhow, I have a poncho. That is what I'm getting at. Is I made one poncho. This one's mine. Isn't it beautiful? This was made. Oh yeah, I did talk about this last week because oh goodness Lord. It illustrated my idiocy, and I did end up frogging it. For anybody who's interested, I did end up frogging it, and I did it again in the proper way because as it was going along with the seam on the arm, I was like, this is too noticeable. Because if you're used to doing a granny square, you know that after the first couple of rows where your seam is, it kind of migrates around. Like, it's not always at the corner. Unless like you're very mindful and do it that way. I don't tend to be that mindful to do it that way. So the seam was migrating and it wasn't staying against my arm. It was like it looked like it was coming around. It wasn't. It was just like the natural way of things for how it was going. And I was like, well, it's super noticeable now. So I pulled it out and then I started again, and then I actually finished it in one shot. I got it done. It was fast. I got this done, I think, in 3 days once I had said no more frogging. But yeah. So it turned out really, really nicely. I love how the colors turned out. I love how it hangs on my body. This part here I think is so cute because it got to the point where it was like the back and forth was like almost exactly the perfect evenness. So it got like this fun patchiness here. I don't know. Sometimes I like that and sometimes I don't. Sometimes I really like when it's more like it's showing, not even at the top. That's not quite the part that I like the best. Let me see. This right here, when every row is very different from one another, but I know when you have variegated yarns, it does depend how far you're going because you'll just kind of get to that like critical mass point and it doesn't do that anymore, which is just the nature of the beast. There's nothing, I mean, unless you want to like start cutting bits out of it, which I'm not that interested in doing. And for personal use, I'm really not that worried about that kind of stuff. So I just take it as it is. But if you're somebody who you have a very, very specific vision in mind, and you're like, it has to be like this. And I understand we sometimes get projects like that, or you get a customer that's like that, and there's nothing wrong with it. I'm just saying, for me personally, yes, like I like it that way because it's my own personal thing, and I don't think it really takes away from the project itself. I'm not interested in cutting up the yarn to make it look a certain way. But sometimes that is something that you have to do, is that you just have to kind of find the natural end and beginning of certain parts of the yarn, and then you cut them apart and you put them back together in a different way, and you know, it works out really great. But so that I chose not to do that. I chose to just go with the flow, and I'm just gonna put that up off to the side here because I like it. And then, because my daughter is my mini, and it's the funniest thing. She looks exactly like me. She talks just like me. We're just two peas in a pod. It's crazy. It's like I cooked her up in a lab somewhere, and then I just gave birth to her. It's like my husband had nothing to do with it at all, which is not true. He is hers. She is his. All of that. I'm just saying, it's like I have a friend who their kids all looked exactly like their dad, and we just joked around that she was just the incubation vessel, that she had like no genetic makeup to them. It's a joke. It's not real, and it's nothing to be like rude to surrogates, nothing like that. It's just, we just say that, it's just a funny joke thing that we say. Please don't be mad. It's just, we're being silly. That's all it is, I promise. But after I made my poncho, she wanted a poncho, so I took her to Michael's and I let her pick out yarn, and she picked out one of my favorite yarns, and I haven't used it for so long, the Unforgettable yarn by Red Heart, and she picked it in Gossamer. And oh my word, is this not the most beautiful little thing in the entire world? Like, stunning. I did her seam in the back differently than mine. So mine had the migrating back seam, whereas this one did not. So I will show this to you. So you can see here, there's a very distinct line down the center. So on my traditional granny squares, I should always preface this with the way that I do it. And on my big one, it is like my traditional granny squares that I make. I would have tended to put two of the same in this corner, and then the seam kind of migrates down this way. It stays very, very straight, but instead of being to a corner, it stays straight like this, down the side, like that. So we can take a good look at that one another time if you would like, and I can show you what I mean by the difference by them. But this one, so I did it down the center. So I only did one corner stitch at the beginning of the row, went around, and then I finished it up and chain two for this back one, and I put a slip stitch through the first stitch of the granny stripe, and then I went back and did the same thing instead of putting two in the corner. That is, again, that is how I would do a granny square, is I would do, like, you start with your 4, and then the next row is I would do 2 for the corner, then skip, then 2, then skip, then 2, and then you chain, and then you go up the center. So the seam, it stays sort of like just off center, or it like kind of ends up center. I guess it depends on how big it is, but it stays straight and goes up like this instead of following the corner like this. And I wouldn't say either is right or wrong. It's just, it's two different ways to accomplish the same thing. But I wanted her to have a nice straight seam down the back and not have the wandering seam. I call it, it's not exactly wandering. I just call it that way. Just for this particular piece, because the color change was a lot, and it was quite, I love the way that this yarn fades, but the spaces of yarn that are colored in the order that it is, they're not super, super long, if you know what I mean. So it changes, it's not super fast. Like, I've had some yarn, it changes literally every couple of centimeters, like about 10 centimeters. And that's more for planned pooling, but I mean, you can still crochet with that just fine. But then, like, basically when it's that small, every stitch, every granny stitch is a different color, which is cool in its own right. But where was I going with this? Oh yeah, no, I still don't remember. Oh gosh. Oh, because the color was rotating, so not abruptly, because it faded very nicely. It's just that it wasn't like crazy long stretches of the same color. I just wanted it to be noticeable that way, just to draw your eye down instead of off to the side, because I feel like for this yarn specifically, having the seam go this way would have made it look wrong. That's all I was trying to get out. Man, that was difficult. I forgot to show you at the edge of this. It's so cute. I did sort of a little tricot bobble thingy on the end here. So what I did at the very end is I did my final row of granny stitch, and then I did a row of double crochet, and then I came back and I started again at the back where I wanted to. I did single crochet, then I single crocheted next to it, chain 5, kind of looped it back and slip stitched the end back into the original single crochet. Then I repeated that around. So it sort of is like two single crochets. Like it's a single crochet in every stitch fundamentally, but on every other one it has chain 5, which then you loop back to make these adorable little baubles, which my daughter loves them. They're just like the cutest, sweetest little things. So I'm totally sorry I forgot to mention that. Isn't it cute though? I have a bunch of people that want this poncho in this size and in this yarn, so I'm excited about that. And the final thing that I worked on and finished and started and told no one about is this lovely top that I made. I joke that it is 100% Muppet skin. It is not. It is a Karen cake. I don't even think I saved the label. No, I'm sorry. I don't have the label for this. I can't remember the color. It's a pink and coral, I guess I would say, and brown. I want to say they're called latte cakes, if I'm just trying to dig around in the recesses of my head. But all I did for this, and oh yeah, this is my first circular yoked shirt that worked out exactly how I wanted it to. So you know, I typically like the square yoke, and that's just because I don't, when I look on camera, I would say that this isn't true, but when I wear clothes all the time, I would say that I have a fairly straight line across. Like my shoulders are usually pretty straight. Like, yes, I'm looking at my traps now when they like go down, but I don't know, IRL, they're decently straight across. So that's why I like the square neck, because I don't know, I like it when everything is a right angle, I guess. Anyway, so I made this, but it worked out perfectly fine. I used a front post and back post double crochet to get the ribbing at the top here. And then it's all granny stripe. I'll stand up. And then I just did a couple of just regular double crochets at the bottom to finish this off. And the sleeves are the same as that. They're just double crochet at the very bottom and granny stripe all the way up. So this is just a for fun shirt. It's a little bit of a crop style. It hits right at my belt line, which is fine. It's okay. I do feel like I have to pull it down, but it's very, like, this yarn I find is quite springy because I can pull it way out and it goes back to where it was, which is, I don't know, it's fun. But it doesn't like stay stretched out, which is great, I think, in so many things. And I am not worried at all about washing and drying this, except with Velcro, because of the fact that it's so springy and bouncy, and it really is full of life. Like, I think if this was a thinner yarn, it would have really great drape. Just based on how it feels. Like, it stretches so nicely. Oh, I forgot a string. Ooh. That's where I started my sleeve, is back in my armpit right here. So that's my bad. Always double check your work, kids. That's why. Double check it. Make sure you check your work. That is the word from the wise today. Anyway, so yes, this is my top. This one is just for fun and I like it, and it's fluffy and it's soft and everybody likes to squish it. So that is what's great about it. I've been a yarny individual this week. I have been out to the thrift store. I have been to not the yarn store, I've been to Michael's, and I was at the dollar store. And I know loads of you are gonna be like, hello, we have known that there's yarn at the dollar store for a million years. And I'm like, I don't really go down the yarn aisle because we look for Hot Wheels and I look for stuff for the house. So I don't often go down the craft aisle at the dollar store, particularly Dollarama. Usually if I was getting craft stuff, I would go to Dollar Tree just because I would be like, put it in my basket and go. It was just easier at Dollar Tree for me for a while. I didn't know that Dollar Tree had yarn, but I never bought any. Anywho, this is what I picked up. The first things that I got were from the one thrift store that I tend to go to more than the other one. We have a thrift store called Mission Thrift. Is that what it's called? Yes, Mission Thrift Store. Here's the label. That's their stickers anyway. that I've been going there for years and years since they came to town. And then there's another, it's not a thrift store exactly, but it is. It's a salvage center, so you can take things to our local dump, and if they are still if they're still salvageable, hence the name Salvage Center, you can donate them to there, and then they use the funds that they generate from sales to, oh gosh, what, I think for AIM or something like that. They have a big component, and they list at the front door where I am anyway, they list all of the places. But I didn't go to the Salvage Center to pick this up. I got this at the other thrift store by Bob's permission. So I already showed you a bit of this. Look at this yarn. OMG, right? It almost hurts my eyes. It is so pink. I am also very certain that this production of this yarn was really bad for the environment, given the color. And I hate to say, oh well, but isn't this nice? I love it. I'm pretty sure that this was a partially used ball that someone has pulled from the outside, because when I look at the label, someone's folded it very nicely and put it down. But I don't really care, because I know that these definitely cost more than $2 at Michael's and things like that. And yeah, no, I was happy to grab this, but $1.20, like, you can't go wrong. So my lovely sweet daughter has asked me if I could make her a headband, and I thought that would be an incredible use of this, so that's what I'm going to do with it. The next thing that I got at the thrift store, and I'm ever so slightly annoyed by this, and I feel like if you tuned in last week, you'll understand why, but I got 6 skeins of this all together, which would have been overkill. It's this lovely, like, purple clover. Oh, it's so pretty. It is the cotton I was looking for, not in the color I was looking for, but that doesn't matter because it's the thrift store, so you can't be fussy about things like that. But this is what I was looking for exactly. This is about the same size as the True Blue yarn, but this is the word that I can't say. It's that cotton that I was looking for, and all of this is the same dye lot, and it was $6.70 a skein, and I paid $1.30 a skein for it. But this is what I wanted. This is exactly it. I knew I wasn't crazy when I was saying that there is a thicker yarn that's like between the Bernat handicraft yarn and then that other, like, Lydia's stuff that I was talking about last week that, like, comes in, it's not a cake exactly, but, like, it comes in cake shape. So I am irritated in a way that I couldn't find that, and then excited that I found this, but I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it. I got this just because there was 6 of them, and very rarely do you find 6 of the same, let alone color lot and dye lot. Very rarely do you find that at the thrift store. So I was like, you know what? This is too cheap and too pretty to not come home with me. So I brought it home with me. Oh, so lovely. I may still make another top out of it. I have to finish the first one first. But as I said before, that's on hold until I feel a time that it should come back out of hibernation. But that color, I hope it photographs nicely because it's just so lovely. And I love how this yarn is made too. It's like a little tiny, I'm going to have to figure out how to focus this for you guys. But it's like a chain, or like it's like woven or something. I don't know. It's perfect because then you can't shear this, or you really have to work at it to shear it. But I got this, so I love it. Happy, excellent thrift store find, in my opinion. And again, you guys know that there's yarn at the dollar store. I don't usually go down there. This is from Dollarama, and this yarn makes me laugh so hard. So I kind of got it because it's like, A, it's novelty because it's dollar store yarn, and this is my first dollar store yarn purchase, and B, just the label. And for seasoned kniters and crocheters out there, I feel like you guys will completely understand. I'm going to show you the label and not say anything, and then I'm going to discuss the label after. Okay, so it's called Icelandic Yarn. It's 100% polyester, and this is Iceland, which is great. And barcode, and it has some numbers on it. I was just making sure. And I have the washing guide, and then in, I think, English, French, and Spanish. Yep. Wash guide. Back to our little scene. Cost $4 a ball. And we're back here. What is this missing? If you said everything, you'd be 100% correct. It is missing everything. What do I mean by everything? I'm gonna get the Karen ball again, even though that's partially covered up by the tag. But let's pretend. Let's just pretend there's no tag here. I am looking for this number. I am looking for this number, and I am looking for this number. And then here is the washing guide, so that part's fine. Also, dye lot. And it actually says the dye lot. And where is it? This should have a color. I bet it's covered up, but, oh yeah, the color is underneath here, but still, like, I know this is Dollarama, but it cost $4 a ball, which is not terribly unreasonable given that it's our Dollarama. But I could have probably purchased something very similar like this at Michael's, and it would have given me all of that information. Like, I'm finding it so funny that it doesn't have any of that stuff. So if we use, again, the Karen as a guide, this is considered a worsted weight yarn. So this would probably, okay, this compared to this would be a 6 by comparison to this if we use this as a 4, which I would say, like, we're being generous to call this a 4, but we can see this. So that's the thickness of that. And then we'll see the thickness of this Icelandic yarn next to it. Can you see? There, I'll hold it. Also, I would say that I'm not complaining about this yarn yet. I haven't even used it. It looks a lot fluffier than it is. It's very easy to compress it. It's just like a standard, like, roving yarn. It's barely twisted, and it has that black, it's the black line that you see through it, like right here, for example. It's like thread that they have in there. And I would assume that that's probably just well, it says 100% polyester, so I'd assume it's a polyester or acrylic or something like that. Machine wash in warm water. Oh, son of a gun. Usually everything says cold water nowadays. So I'm not complaining about this yarn. I'm not saying it's crap. Like, it feels like really nice and squishy. And the reason that I bought it is because, like, I was intrigued by it saying that it is Icelandic yarn, because I don't know exactly what makes it Icelandic, but this is the only place that I would be able to get this colorway that looks like this. So I did. And like I said, there's no dye lot or anything on here, so I have no idea if these even match. Like, I just assume so. The numbers on the back match, but it doesn't actually say the word dye lot on there. It just has that, and those are the same. But I don't know if that actually has to do with, like, or maybe, like, that's an item number and it just means yarn. I don't know. There were other colors at the dollar store that I did not get just because I didn't like them as much. So this one, it's probably not gonna, like all my usual issue. It doesn't, like, come up on the camera as it usually does in real life. So it's kind of a greeny gold and a cranberry red. And I would say maybe this is what makes it Icelandic, is that the blackish part of the yarn is like the color of that black sand that's in Iceland. It could just be the way that it's made. I don't know. But I have an idea for these. I'm going to make leg warmers because I like to wear, in the wintertime, I have a couple of long skirts that I really like to wear. And I usually wear tights underneath them, but we're getting to that time of year where tights is too hot. Just because I don't want to be cold. I really don't want to be cold. And they're ankle length. So, I mean, I'm not worried like the wind is going to blow up and expose my modesty. But I love that, like, my one skirt in particular, it's this beautiful purple, like, fluffy, like, little girl skirt that it's great for twirling in. But I don't like to be cold, but I want to have leg warmers that I also will use for hiking because I find they're valuable for that, or for yoga or things like that. So we're gonna see how that works out. I will report back to test that out, and I think I'm going to use, it's so funny and ironic that this just, like, fell out of my lap and I wasn't even using it, but this is a 6mm Susan Bates hook, and I don't know what on earth I have done to it, but look, it looks like I ate it on the side, which is crazy. Unless the puppy got it, that's entirely possible. No, you know what, I've probably, this is fingernail damage. I've used this one a lot. I've had this hook for years, so it's not surprising. Or I hold them in my mouth all the time. Anyway, this is probably the hook that I'm going to use because while it looks like it's like twice the size of that hot pink Karen yarn, just like when you squish it with your fingers, it's not as lofty as, let's see. Okay, this stuff is massive, by the way. I can't remember. I want to say this is that Bernat. It's not the blanket stuff because it's like two roving pieces twisted together. I forget exactly what it's called, but when you squish this, it still has a decent feel in your hand, whereas that stuff, I would say that's probably like more true to a real roving rather than this. But and this is like a 10 millimeter or 11 millimeter, like this stuff's massive. This it's a different kind of squishy. So I have no expectations going in. I don't think I've ever seen anybody make anything with this yarn, and I want to make something that's not ridiculously high traffic, because I don't want to make a shirt and then it's all balled up in the armpits in 2 days. Like, that makes me sad. And with roving yarn, that typically is what happens. Is it's not robust enough for that kind of wear and tear on it. It's not made for that stuff. So you can't use it for that, which is why I only got 3 balls. But yeah, you know what? I will probably have something done for you next week, very, very latest week after that, and then I can discuss the merits of the dollar store yarn. But I don't know, it just it made me laugh, and it's like weird, ironic way that it's dollar store yarn. Okay, so I do want to touch on a couple of things about getting yarn from out of the ordinary places, particularly a thrift store. You need to go into these thrift stores when you're going to places, and you really, really need to check them out first. So I mean, like, check anything textile. I need you to check not every, that sounds ridiculous, but look through and don't be like all like sneaky and weird about it, but just like browse it appropriately. Textiles is the #1 thing I would say. So if they have bath items, sheets, pillows, things like that, I always look at that and I see what quality does this thrift store let into the store to be resold, because some places have they sort of bail up the, like, I would call them the reject stuff at our house. It's the stuff that I don't donate. The things I don't donate are kids' clothes, for example, that will have stains on them. They might be in good physical shape, but they will have stains. They'll have rips, tears, things like that are just, or if like my one kid chews the collars of their shirts every once in a while, I do not donate those. Those I turn into rags or cut up for other stuff. I don't give those to people. So some places will bail those things up because people are looking just for rags and they don't care that it's, like a Pikachu shirt with a big hole in it. They just need it to clean up oil in the garage. Some places will bundle those up. Some places don't. Some places will put those out and they will be for sale. So if you see things like that if you wouldn't take it home because of those things, I would probably stay away from their yarn section. Same thing like with bed sheets. And again, like, I would say, for me personally, sun damage is not a big deal necessarily as long as it's even. And like things that are out of date, again, like, that's not a big deal to me. It's the things that, like, are the sheets and pillowcases, are they ripped? Does it have, like bloody noses, someone's wiped on it? And yes, like, accidents do happen and sometimes things kind of get missed when they're being put out, but you can tell if, if you pick up 4 items and 2 of them have like no-go stuff on them, no, I would definitely not buy yarn. So once you're satisfied with the linens, towels, things like that in that section, usually most stores kind of keep all of that stuff together. I would move over to the clothes and do a very quick browse again and see what kind of stuff does this store let through. Is this stuff in good repair? Do you notice any like very, very odd smells? And things to me that are odd smells it's not that like old, when you have a shirt in your drawer and you don't wear it for a long time and you take it out and you're just like, I know this is clean, but it just smells like it's stored. To me, that's not a red flag, because I know like that tends to be what happens too, is people will have stuff stored away for a long time, then they donate it and it just kind of takes a while to air out. That to me is not an alarming smell. Alarming smells are cigarette smoke, gasoline, anything that's like really unnatural smelling. So even if it smells like, if anything smells like bleach, like very strong bleach, because I know some people, like, again, they will, I'm one of these people. I wash everything before I send it to the thrift store if I'm going to be donating anything. And if it's something like a towel, for example, I bleach those before I send them if they're white. But they shouldn't reek of bleach. They shouldn't reek of anything. It doesn't mean that they're all going to be like, they may have I haven't worn this smell. But to me, again, that's not a red flag. And again, look for rips, tears, bugs, anything like that, moth holes, things like that. If you're satisfied with that, then move towards where the yarn and the haberdashery is kept, because it's pretty good likelihood that you are going to have a good experience there if your linens and your clothing is in seemingly good order. And yeah, so if you are questioning at any point things in both of those sections, I don't even bother going. I understand that the fear of bed bugs or ticks or anything that might hide in those fibers is very, very real, very scary to a lot of people, and I completely appreciate that. That's not something I worry about so much because, and again, I would never buy something that had noticeable bed bugs in it. And I always handle everything before, like I'm probably that person that, like, the people who have to clean up after like others have been there for COVID would have been driven nuts because I touch everything. So yeah, like these, for example, oops, geez Louise, I keep knocking that same thing out. Yes, like this has a lot of loops. It has lots of hiding spaces. I always give them a flick and I see what comes off of them. And I'm always like, this is how I think when I want something, is I'm always like this. Yeah, so, and these skeins too, right? Like you can untwist them to see what's in the middle, pick around and look inside and do your due diligence, because you could have the cleanest thrift store ever and you could get a bed bug in there, and you know, it's 99% of the time, it is not intentional that someone would put something like that out, or it was fine before and something else was in there and got in. I would never intentionally purchase, be like, oh, there's just one bed bug in there, and buy it. I would leave it. Actually, I'd probably tell somebody there's a bed bug in here. But I like to, most of the time, there's a few times I've got stuff from friends and I don't bother because I know they don't have bed bugs, is that I will go and because I have this luxury, because I live in a deep freeze place, is if you have access to a deep freezer, you can put them in a plastic bag, tie the top up nicely, just put it in there, leave it in your deep freeze or your fridge freezer if you have room to do that for 7 days. That should very, very much kill anything that's in there. And if you live in a place like I do, where you regularly get snow and it's freezing cold a lot of the time, you can do the same thing. Put it in a bag if it's not already, tie it up, and you can leave it outside and make sure that it is away from animals, because if you have raccoons or anything like that, they're gonna get in there. But yeah, like right now, when I woke up this morning, it was -28, and if I left something outside for a couple of days at -28, there is such a remote chance that anything is going to be caught off of those, or that it would survive, that I feel very confident that that would take care of anything like that. And if you don't have a deep freeze, if you don't know somebody with a deep freeze, if you don't live in a place that's cold, I can't personally speak to a heat treatment because that's not something I have ever had to worry about or entertain before. But if you live in a place where you don't get freezing cold weather, that is like, that's less than -10 centigrade, what would you do to prep your yarn? I would love to discuss that in the comment box below, because I can't speak to heat treating because I don't, and it would, you know what, if it's that important to me in the summertime, if I got yarn, I would probably, if I didn't put it in the deep freeze, I'd probably just wait and leave it in the garage until winter time, until I would have time to like mass treat everything. So that's what we've been taught about bed bugs and lice and stuff. Here is that if we've got weather like we've got today, throw all that stuff outside. It'll be dead like that. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you had a wonderful afternoon. If you enjoyed this video, I would love it if you gave it a thumbs up. If you don't, give it a thumbs down. That's your prerogative. I live for that kind of thing anyway. Like, you do you. You can also subscribe below, and you can hit the bell to get notified the next time that I upload a video. I upload on Wednesdays and I post at 1 p.m. That's mountain time because I live in the mountains, remember? All right, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we will talk soon. Bye!